we are kicking things off with explosive action. Jorge Masvidal is fired up and demanding a shot at the UFC gold, declaring that Carlos Prates is his current favorite fighter. Masvidal is absolutely hyped about Prates' destructive performance, highlighting the fluid violence and style he is bringing to the octagon, and we dive deep into why this fighter is making every legend take notice.
Tired of dropping your phone or struggling to hold it with one hand? The PopSockets Pop Grip gives you a secure grip, works as a phone stand, and even lets you swap the top for a fresh new look. Simple, useful, and perfect for everyday phone use. Click the link in the comments to grab yours on Amazon.
Next up, the heavyweight division is on fire with Khamzat Chimaev back at the top, and Chael Sonnen has issued a serious warning to Sean Strickland. Sonnen calls Strickland the last hope for the martial arts community, predicting that if Chimaev penetrates him, the Chimaev era is here to stay. We break down the intense rivalry and the escalating tensions between these two titans. The action keeps rolling with what's next for the UFC winners. We look at Carlos Prates' path forward after his massive win over Jack Della Maddalena, and we explore the exciting prospects for Quillan Salkilld, Matthews Gamrot, Steve Erceg, and Amir Albazi as they look to climb the rankings. Plus, we check in on Rahicki and Perisic's next matchups. And finally, we wrap up with a serious word from the action. UFC vet Tim Elliott snapped back at a disgruntled fan after his loss at UFC Perth, showing no mercy to those who try to bully fighters. As we look ahead to the title picture with Islam Makhachev, don't miss a second of this action. Stay locked in, because the biggest stories are happening right now. Noi Dung Kai Tight. Carlos Prates has ignited renewed interest in his pursuit of a UFC championship after delivering a destructive stoppage against former welterweight champion Jack Della Maddalena at UFC Fight Night. The performance has drawn significant attention, with some legendary figures weighing in on Prates' potential. Jorge Masvidal, former BMF champion, recently declared Prates as his current favorite fighter, describing his style as crazy and the most violent guy he has seen, noting that Prates fights with a fluid combination of elbows and knees aimed at ending a fight, suggesting he is fighting for the BMF belt if not the UFC title. /N Masvidal's endorsement highlights Prates' aggressive approach, noting that Prates is unusual among elite fighters for maintaining habits like regular cigarette smoking, even lighting up at a recent press conference. Despite these habits, Prates' momentum is undeniable, as the Della Maddalena knockout marks his third consecutive stoppage win and his seventh in 8 UFC bouts. His only professional loss came against Ian Machado Gary in April 2025, a fighter widely expected to challenge Islam Makhachev for the welterweight title, which would place Prates slightly behind the immediate championship contention. /N the prospect of Prates competing for the BMF title remains an intriguing possibility, especially given the current status of Charles Oliveira, who recently captured the title at UFC 326 and has no immediate plans for a return fight. Fans are keenly watching Prates as he navigates his path toward a major championship opportunity. Chael Sonnen has identified Sean Strickland as the crucial, last hope for the martial arts community against the reigning UFC middleweight champion, Khamzat Chimaev, ahead of their highly anticipated title defense at UFC 328 in Newark, New Jersey this Saturday. Sonnen, a three-time title challenger and UFC Hall of Famer, believes Strickland represents the final line of defense against Chimaev's dominance in the division. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show, Sonnen stated that Strickland is the last line of defense between the martial arts community and having to watch Chimaev for the next period of time. Sonnen drew parallels between his own wrestling-heavy style and that of the champion, suggesting the division is poised for another lengthy title reign. Sonnen also voiced significant concern over the escalating animosity between the two fighters. He reported that Strickland has made threatening remarks, stating he is willing to use a firearm on Chimaev or his team members if approached aggressively. This tension stems from their brief training history and subsequent public slandering of Chimaev's identity and affiliations. Sonnen questioned the security arrangements, expressing concern that the exchange of threats undermined the competitive nature of the rivalry. He pleaded with Strickland to refrain from using weapons against Chimaev or his entourage. Regarding the fight strategy, Sonnen anticipates Chimaev will employ his usual aggressive tactics. However, he believes taking down Strickland will be significantly more challenging than Chimaev has faced in his past opponents. Sonnen asserted that Chimaev's success against Strickland will not rely on dominant ground and pound, noting that Strickland is unlikely to be held down for extended periods due to referee intervention. Sonnen concluded that Chimaev will need to find a novel approach to overcome the champion. Noi Dung Kai Tight? The UFC Perth event delivered a compelling mix of high stakes and exciting action, culminating in a main event that highlighted standout performances for 2026. Carlos Prates delivered a dominant performance, dismantling former champion Jack Della Maddalena in a stunning third-round stoppage. While the home crowd saw their favorite lose the main event, Quillan Salkilld, Steve Erceg, and Brando Perisic provided compelling moments for the audience on the main card. And analyzing the outcomes sets the stage for future matchups. Prates' victory, though impressive, against the top of the welterweight division, was halted by the elite defense of Ian Machado Gary, who managed to stifle his offense, though the Irishman did taste the nightmare in the final frame. Despite the loss, Prates is firmly positioned as a potential welterweight title contender. Turning to Quillan Salkilld, his first-round finish was significant. Experts suggest that the victory may indicate a shift in Beneil Darius's punch resistance, positioning Salkilld to capitalize on any connection. This win also propelled the Australian into the lightweight rankings, placing him among elite contenders. Given the perceived difficulty of facing Matthews Gamrot, Salkild's next fight is expected to be against Gamrot. And Steve Erceg has built momentum after securing a win streak, following tough bouts against fighters like Alexander Pantoja, Kai Kara France, and Brandon Morneau. With recent successes, Erceg is being considered for a ranking push, with Amir Albazi being suggested as a logical next step. And Rahiki, who secured his second UFC victory before turning 24, is advised to focus on sharpening his skills for a few more fights before seeking a major jump in competition. A suitable next challenge could be John Yannis, who is currently 1-1 in the promotion and recently secured a first-round KO victory. And Brando Perisic has emerged as a bright spot in the heavyweight division. To climb the heavyweight ladder as an exciting puncher, Perisic will need matchups that offer fan-friendly action. Tyrell Fortune is suggested as a potential opponent who could test Perisic in new ways and serve as a launchpad toward the top 10. For Louis Sutherland, who secured his first UFC win, Stephen Asplund is recommended as a viable opponent to test his skills. UFC flyweight contender Tim Elliott has responded sharply to a disgruntled fan on social media regarding losses incurred on his recent UFC Perth defeat. The exchange highlighted the growing tension between some UFC fans and fighters when betting outcomes do not go their way. The UFC Perth event featured several high-profile bouts, headlined by welterweight star Carlos Prates defeating former champion Jack Della Maddalena. Meanwhile, the UFC welterweight champion Islam Makhachev awaits updates on his first title defense. On the undercard, a compelling fight saw former title challenger Steve Erceg secure a unanimous decision victory over Tim Elliott, ending Elliott's recent winning streak. This context is important as Elliott had been actively pursuing the flyweight title following recent wins against Kai Asakura and Sumiderji. The friction escalated when a fan, after Elliott posted content following the event, directed a personal and aggressive attack on him on social media, writing, "I lost money on you, you B." Elliott quickly countered the personal attack, responding with a harsh retort, "Get a job, B." Elliott has established a reputation for being combative, not hesitating to retaliate against fans who attempt to bully fighters after their wagers fail. This incident underscores the increasing pressure fighters face from the fan base, particularly concerning betting narratives, as the UFC continues its expansion and popularity surge.